I believe we've been every year. So that would make it about 10 or 11. And Pat, in all this full disclosure, I didn't know anything about this game. This was always a game when I lived in Alabama on the bye week for Bama, because they always had LSU the next week. So I always tried to go play golf or do something on that Saturday and not pay attention to Florida, Georgia. And I had a bit of the SEC West snobbery when I got down there, and I did not realize it was a religious experience.
Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. All right, welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Very happy to be home right now because it was kind of a long day yesterday. In fact, Karen and I went over to St. Augustine, spoke to the great club over there, the Ancient City Gator Club. They saw so many great friends. Robin Birchfield, who I haven't seen in a while, Ricky Birchfield, her husband, Debbie, who I haven't seen, who we've known for a long time, but I haven't seen her in a long time. Zanula, just a list what went on. John Alexander, the list went on and on and on. People that I haven't seen in a while, so it was great. All my St. Augustine chums. And I did talk about how who knew a kid that grew up on 52 Sea Park Drive would one day have a podcast where he interviews Spurrier every Monday. I'm lucky. I'm privileged, and find two different women that would marry him. That in itself is a miracle. All right, so that was a good time. We're gonna have a great time today. I cannot wait for the show. Today we're going to be joined in the first segment by Todd Golden, the Florida basketball coach. He is going to talk about what he's got coming up going forward. Of course, they start Monday in that game against USF. We'll talk about Amir Abdul-Rahim, who, of course, passed away suddenly, and that I'm sure he's got some thoughts about that. And then in the second segment, Paul Finebaum will be on. And we'll talk about the SEC and NIL and all that stuff, and he'll do a yes, no, where maybe with me. So should be a fun show. We have all of our regular stuff that we're going to have, the Mayhem moment, the Adams, all that. It's going to be coming up too. I will tell you this: the Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. I decided to postpone the draw until Monday. Thursday, it's just a lot going on today, but I didn't, and I wanted you to have one more chance. I wanted you to pick on the Georgia. You guys haven't done that good. I wanted you to pick on the Florida-Georgia game. I'll tell you what the spread is in a minute. And we'll do that in another game, which will be fun. Then we'll make a poll, I promise you, on Monday, and that person will win $25 from Leonardo's at Millhopper. Plus, I haven't decided what your second prize will be, but I'll have it. You'll know it by Monday. I'll make sure I get it to you. I may give you 25 at Nopal. We've been talking about Nopal a lot, how we're trying to help out my friend Jesus over there at Nopal, right over here on right off of 34th, and he's been going through some tough times. So I've got a gift certificate staring me in the eye, so I'll give that away too. So that'll be cool. It'll be easy to mail too. That part I really like. That's the worst part of it, of pulling a winner, is then you have to go all the way to the mailbox and got to put it in an envelope, got to pay for that. But it's fine. I love you guys. All right. Let us get to our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting five, brought to you, of course, by the great Gainesville Quarterback Club. Now, last week, Andy Staples was great on Tuesday, and I did find out why I was off, because as I got home Tuesday night after being at the meeting, I'm watching the football game, and there's Matt Stinchcomb doing the game. Obviously, he got in the last minute yanked in to replace somebody or do a game, and they called Andy, and who that's a good that you have somebody at your disposal like that that can do it. Quiet resource, I guess you would call him. I was just watching an SNL skit the other day, and she was talking about being a quiet resource. That was funny. Anyway. But Andy was great. There is no meeting this week, and it's kind of a weird reason, but not weird, but it's part of our lives. But the Best Western is used for a voting. That's one of the voting stations. So they don't want to get in the middle of all that, and I don't even know if they're supposed to get in the middle of all that, and that's probably why they aren't doing it. But anyway, so no meeting this week, and I think Jacob Hesser is next week, but I'll double confirm it the following week. I'll double confirm all that. I'll make sure I have all that ready to go on Monday. So let's get to number one on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting five, and that is, of course, what I've been saying all week. I mentioned it the other day but I'm going to say it again. Why not make a run? Why not Florida? And I talked about this with the quarterback club, and again with the club in St. Augustine. You know, I didn't even talk about this part of it because I meant to, but I forgot about it. But in 1973, the November to Remember. I mean, it had its whole chapter in a book that Tom McEwen wrote. Things like that can happen. I mean, look, I'm not saying they will happen. In fact, the joke I used was, why not Florida? Why not run the table? I guarantee you, if Florida runs the table, they'll be in the playoff. I promise you that. And the good thing is you'll never be able to prove me wrong because they're not running the table. Now, I'm saying that, but that's just as a loser fan, negative Nelly that I tend to be. You know, I hate to be that way, but when you negative root so much, it kind of bleeds over into your own fandom. Look, the bottom line is it's possible. Now, are they 16-point underdogs for this game? Yes. But they were 16-point underdogs against Tennessee too. You saw how that turned out, and almost turned out really good for Florida. Sorry, I got something in mind. So, 16-point underdogs and they're going to be massive underdogs at Texas. They're going to be underdogs to LSU and Ole Miss at home. I don't know how big it'll be. A lot will depend. A lot depends on what they do as well. But don't forget, this line opened at 21, and now it's down to 16. And it's funny because everybody I run into, Gator fans that I run into all the time lately, I mean, I was talking about the last few days, have been saying, I think we might win this game. And the sudden optimism because of the way you played against a bad Kentucky team, which it is a bad Kentucky team. Now, it wasn't a bad Kentucky team. I don't think the team that walked in here was a bad Kentucky team, but it left a bad Kentucky team. Let's put it that way. Florida beat them down. I told you about the injuries last week, and you watched the game, and I think they lost another guy. I think it was their big tackle was out, Walker, with an injury. That I don't know if it happened during the game because I have sound off. I can't have sound on all three TVs anyway. So look, we'll see how it all goes. We'll see how the Gators are able to do. But we also know that it'd be great to make this rivalry relevant again. Because to be honest with you, the moment Urban Meyer walked out the door, it's had a hard time getting back to being relevant. And that included a 2-1 run from Jim McElwain. But since Urban left, and Urban's last game, of course, was the famous Chaz Henry, you're going to effing choke from Todd Grantham. I never forgave him for that. You shouldn't either. It's a college student you're saying that to. All right. Anyway, but my point is that for Florida, to be 4-9 since the day Urban walked out of the building is not good. 4-9, and that's 2 wins for McElwain. No wins for obviously the current coach Billy Napier. 1 for Dan Mullen, and literally that one win destroyed his college career. I'm not kidding you when I say that, because he thought he had figured everything out. And that's when it started to go south after the win. Did not go well after that. You know what happened. A year later, he's fired. So that's one of the wins. And one of the wins was Muschamp, who went 1-3. So the rivalry, as great as it is, and I love it, it's a great thing. It's spectacular. I love it. I'll talk about that in a minute. But for all that, it is it's to be relevant. You've got, and that's why Florida, Kentucky wasn't relevant until Kentucky started beating Florida. The America's Cup wasn't relevant until we lost it. The Olympics basketball wasn't relevant until we lost to the Russians and they cheated. Then it became relevant. Everything's only as relevant as the competitiveness of it and the winning and losing. And so we'll see what happens this weekend. I'm not a big believer. I believe Florida will cover. I don't believe they'll win. If they do, it'll be the very happy day. I'll just say that. All right, let's go to number 2, which is the future of the Florida-Georgia game. Now, the story broke yesterday, and I think somebody up in Jacksonville broke it, one of the TV stations, but then Napier blurted it out on his press conference. But it's news. I mean, but it's not news. You know what I mean? It's news and it's not news. We knew the Florida-Georgia game was not going to be at Jacksonville in 06 and 07. I'm 26 and 27. I can't have that Weezer song in my head. It goes, We'll be great in '08 and '09. We'll be together for the rest of the time. That's a great song. You gotta listen to it. Anyway, it's better when somebody sings it who can really sing. It's a novel idea. But anyway, so the future of the Florida-Georgia game, we knew they were going to be out because they're going to restore, and not restore, they're going to gut that thing and make it totally different. And so we knew it would probably go to the Mercedes-Benz Dome. Everybody knew that. And we didn't know if it was going to be Jacksonville or, Tampa or Orlando. It ends up being Tampa, which makes sense. Pro Stadium, Raymond James Stadium. And that's fine. Okay. So we kind of knew all that was going to happen, and that's now official that's going to happen. What I was dead wrong on, and I did say this a couple of times at the quarterback club, was, man, let me tell you, when they go and see how much money they can make in Atlanta and in Tampa, they're never coming back to Jacksonville. I was dead wrong about that. I got schooled. Not schooled, but I got straightened out on that by some people that are very smart. Let's just put it that way. But here's the bottom line. Florida did not want to go home and home for those two games. And the reason was they knew if it went home and home, Kirby would never let it go. He wants it to be home and home. They both want it to be home and home, both he and Napier, but they also know, hey, look, bottom line is it makes a lot of money. And I had the numbers off on this, but I got them straightened out. Florida and Georgia both get about $5.5 million for that game because the payout's not that big a deal from the city of Jacksonville, but they let them keep all the ticket revenue. And that's a lot of money. Okay. Now, so my thinking was, but you go to the Mercedes-Benz, you got all these suites and everything, it's going to be more. Nah, so fast, my friend. This thing they're building in Jacksonville is going to make more than they would make playing in Raymond James and the Mercedes-Benz or whatever they wanted to play. They're going to make a lot of money from this. So as we talk about all the negatives about NIL and everything, the revenue streams just keep getting bigger and bigger, and that's going to be a huge one for both Florida and Georgia, and the game will stay in Jacksonville. That is my new prediction. I never predicted it was going to leave. I just said, look, keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on the fact that, these guys could look at the money. Because I was going with the money that Florida got for playing Michigan, which was $5 million. Remember out in Arlington? Wasn't a lot of fun. I had fun in Arlington. I didn't have fun obviously at the game. Anyway, so Florida, Georgia will be in Jacksonville, but for not the next 2 years, but the next 2 years after that, it'll be in those two cities. So kind of cool story. All right, number 3 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5. I wanted to talk about injuries, which could have a major effect in this game. And then I started thinking about, because I was a little surprised to see Trey Wilson on the injury list. He's out for the game. Jason Marshall, I knew was out. I don't. And people sound like they're surprised, but I would guess he's got either a major injury with a bruise, but I would think it's kind of like broken collarbone, and that's weird. Sometimes you just land wrong and it breaks. So he's out, and that certainly hurts them. Asa Turner's still out. I bet you I don't even know what they spent on Asa Turner, and I'm not blaming him, but he's been out since the first game, but they spent NIL money on him to get him from Washington. So they're out. Montrell is questionable. But again, right now you're saying, hey, Jaden Ball is all we need. But, you want as many of your good players as you can possibly get. And the bad news for Florida is that Georgia's left tackle Tate Ratledge is back, which they were targeting this game for him to get back. And he's a really good player. And that certainly solidifies their offensive line. So the injuries kind of get you a little discouraged because there's other ones that are out there. Florida seems to have a lot more injuries than Georgia this year. We're going into this game, but it's still going to come down to discipline, execution, throwing the ball to the right team, big plays. It's all the same things, man. We could make a list of 10 things you have to do to win a game, and 99.99% of the time, if you do all those 10 things, you're going to win. You're probably going to win good. Just go play the game. Can't wait for it. But what I really can't wait for is our guest who joins us now on the Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line, the Florida men's basketball coach, the legend in card collecting is what I've been told, Todd Golden joins us right now. And here he is, the head coach at the University of Florida. I've got a new nickname for you, Todd.
What's that?
You're the HBBC now, because
The
Spurs the HBC. You're the head basketball coach.
I'll take that.
HBBC.
I'm happy with it. I'll take it.
It's kind of like being sir, you know. I would imagine there's a little bit of butterflies about the fact that you're getting ready to start playing on Monday and over in Jacksonville. I'm sure you're excited about it, and you kind of want to see what you have on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've been fortunate enough to have two exhibition. Well, I should call them scrimmages. They haven't been exhibition games. Quote unquote secret scrimmages that aren't secret anymore over the past 2 weekends, and so we have had the opportunity to compete against somebody else. But it's going to be a different opportunity on Monday. You know, when everybody's wearing real jerseys. You know, we have real refs, which we had in the scrimmages also, but fans in the seats. It's the real time here. One of our 32 guaranteed competitions, and I'm excited. I know our guys are. We've been waiting for this moment for quite a while, and it's here. So we're looking to take advantage of it.
Now that it is here, what's your biggest concern going into the season? And again, this is a concern that you down the road you may be able to solve. But what is your biggest area of worry?
This group's been pretty good in our preparation. I think you're always worried, just making sure that you're doing everything you can to prepare your team the best you can. I feel like we've had a good camp that way. If I had to pick a couple things, it would be, staying healthy, making sure that we stay upright. I think if we're able to use our depth all year, we'll be in good shape. I want to see improvement on the defensive side of the ball. It's an area that we've emphasized quite a bit all through summer and camp. And, I do think we'll be better that way, but we got to go do it. And really, those are the two main things. I think if we can be sufficient in those areas, we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Walter does too at point guard, because there were times last year when he struggled with it, and that there were times when teams would pressure you, and you had everybody had struggle with it at sometimes. But it'll be fun to watch and see how he's able to adjust to that role permanently instead of just for the first 3 games.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited for him. He's a guy that spends a lot of time in the gym and is really passionate about being a Florida Gator and wants to put his best foot forward in his last year. We feel like he's ready for this opportunity. He's played very well in the scrimmages in terms of running the team and handling the ball. And, he's going to have help back there too. This isn't going to be a one-man show. He's going to have Denzel Aberdeen. He's going to have Elijah Martin, Will Richard, even Caius and Urban given the opportunity to help organize and run the show. But I think he's ready for it. I think he's going to play really, really well.
Sources close to me have told me that Elijah Martin has really kind of taken a leadership role, which has got to be great for you to see.
Yeah, he has been what we hoped he would be upon arriving here to Gainesville. He's a great competitor, someone that's had a lot of success at this level already, playing in a Final Four, being AAC Co-Player of the Year 2 years ago. And we needed some of that. We needed some perimeter toughness. We needed a guy that could, do a great job guarding the ball. A super competitive, mature young man that understands, what our expectations are. And knock on wood, he's playing pretty well. But the thing that I'm most excited about is just his ability to help lead our team. Him, Walter, and Will have kind of taken on that leadership role, being our veteran perimeter players. And, the guys are falling in line behind them. And that threesome, so to speak, has done a really nice job so far.
How many dumb questions do you get about Olivier?
I would say more just plentiful amount as opposed to necessarily whether they're good or not. But I was talking to somebody the other night, and they were saying and I was like, yeah, we feel like we have a pretty good team, but 95% of our questions, that I get asked are about Olivier. Great young man. I'm not sure how much he can help us this year, but he's a great kid.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's a walk-on, and we'll see how, eventually, hopefully, at some point you can get him to play. But if he doesn't, you've got a lot of big guys in there, and I can't wait to see some of them play, and especially as we move forward and go into SEC play.
Yeah, no, he's my hope. With Olivier specifically, we always considered him kind of a low-risk, high-reward recruit, and he's doing a great job. He has some really good moments in practice, and I think if he can keep working at it like he is, he'll eventually get there.
I got a question for you. It's going to surprise you a little bit. Okay. Would you rather win the SEC tournament or get Chris Harry's Ty Cobb card?
Oh man, that's a great question. So I would need a little more information. Has Chris, has he listened to me at all yet in terms of sending it in and getting that card graded? Because
he's working on that. Yes.
Working on that. If he gets it graded, and I need to see what the grade is, and then I'll be able to evaluate that question a little better. I'm going to say SEC championship, obviously. But if that thing comes back a PSA 10, we might be having another conversation.
Well, apparently there's a guy coming in, and Chris is going to go there when he's coming over to Millhoppers and
Okay.
get it graded. So
Great.
now that could be pretty expensive, though. I don't know how much you're making, but
Yeah, no, it would be more for the collectible than anything else, right? I mean,
I didn't know you were that into cards, but you're really into it, right?
I like it. I think it's been a really neat activity for me and my son to kind of take up. I collected a lot when I was younger, and then went probably about 20 years without doing a whole lot in that world, in that space. But since Jake has really started to become a sports fan, we spent a lot of time at Millhopper and at different shops and ripping packs, and I blame it on him, but it's really me that probably gets the most joy out of it.
Before I let you go, Coach, I know that the passing away of Amir Abdul-Rahif was certainly stunning and tragic for everybody. I admired what he was able to do at USF in his first year, obviously. Is there anything special you guys are doing for that game on Monday?
Monday, we're talking about it as a staff. I knew Amir for probably the past decade. He was an assistant at A&M when I was at Auburn, and we became friends and kind of started building our relationship. Then he had great relationships with guys on our staff. Corey McCray, and Amir knew each other from growing up in Atlanta. Coach Amir was recruiting Carlin Hartman's son. So, there's a lot of ties between our staff and their staff. We are still kind of talking amongst ourselves on really the best way to honor him appropriately. And I think it's something that is easier said than done, but we'll continue to talk and make sure we do something that, we feel like memorializes him well. Really, really tragic, as you said, situation. And, obviously our prayers and our thoughts are with Amir's family and his whole community at this point.
Yeah, just stunning, bad, and terrible news. I did want to ask you about Tony Bennett also leaving the game. Of course, it sounds like another one of those people like Roy Williams, like Jay Wright, who said, "I don't like what's happening with NIL in the portal. I don't want to do it anymore." And it's got to be for young guys like you. Got to say, "Hey, I got no choice, man. I'm just starting out."
That's exactly right. That's kind of how we think about it. I don't necessarily know many that enjoy the continually changing of our space. I think that's probably the hardest part for us is, I think everybody across our profession, whether it's football or basketball coaches, feels student athletes deserve to be compensated in some form or fashion. I don't think that's even a discussion anymore, but the continual changing of these rules and the transfer, portal and all these different things makes it really hard to build a stable program that can have longevity. And I think that's all we really want and hope for is like, all right, how can we, perform our job in a way where we can have continued success without having to adjust on a monthly basis. So, my hope is this house settlement is a good solution. That might be cautiously optimistic in terms of how that lands. But hopefully a step in the right direction as, there's a good chunk carved out for student athletes, but it's just ever changing. And, I think Coach Bennett probably was like, I love what I do and I love a lot of these things, but I'm just not sure this is where my time is best spent and where I can help the most right now. And if he feels that way, then I'm happy for him to be able to step away and take more time with his family. And I'm sure he's happy doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, it's always great talking to you. Great talking to you again. Can't wait to see this team in action. Looking forward to it. And thanks again for being on the show.
My pleasure. We'll see you soon, Pat. Take care.
Okay, this is another Dooley Noted podcast. We'll be back with more from the Dooley Dome Studios right after this break.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Gator fans, football season is here. What's better than seeing the Gators back on the field? Easy. Seeing amazing speakers and fellow Gator fans weekly at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. Held every Tuesday night of a home game at the Best Western Gateway Grand. Enjoy happy hour, great food, valuable insights from yours truly and Andy Staples, plus notable speakers throughout the season. As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you access to elite speakers like coaches, NCAA football insiders, Gator greats, and more. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-season meetings, home tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org or visit thequarterbackclub.org. Or better yet, just give me a call and I'll get you to the right people.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant. And you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Spite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. And it is a great pleasure to bring on the legend that is Paul Finebaum. And of course, you see him all the time on the SEC network, on ABC, on ESPN. I mean, you're lucky you can just stay in one building to do all those. But it's amazing how I'll be on 26, channel 26, and there's Paul. And I'll turn to 27. There's Paul again. They're asking him the same questions.
Yeah, it used to, Pat, before COVID, not that anybody wants to go back there. I used to go to New York and Connecticut every week. And I had to remember really what time our show started. Now it's great. I either do it from where I am every day, or I go upstairs in my house, and you never know the difference. So maybe the only good thing from COVID.
Yeah, well, that and college football attendance, because it got a COVID bump.
It did.
You know, Florida's had, I think, 11 straight sellouts, and without a winning record. You know, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. But we'll see how they do this week. You're going to be obviously in Jayville, town I lived in for 10 years, and certainly have a lot of friends and family up there. But I mean, you've been to a lot of Florida Georgia games now with the SEC Nation, haven't you?
I believe we've been every year. So that would make it about 10 or 11. And Pat, in all this full disclosure, I didn't know anything about this game. This was always a game when I lived in Alabama on the bye week for Bama, because they always had LSU the next week. So I always tried to go play golf or do something on that Saturday and not pay attention to Florida, Georgia. And I had a bit of the SEC West snobbery when I got down there, and I did not realize it was a religious experience.
Yeah, it is. I remember we had a writer one time who was from Virginia. And so when he got down there and he goes to his first Florida Georgia game, and he's sitting there and he's looking around the crowd, he goes, "Man, Georgia traveled really well to this game." I'm like, it's 50-50. You got to learn. But and again, the good news is that it's going to probably stay after they renovate the stadium up in Jacksonville. And I'm curious to see what your booths are going to look like. You know, your luxury suite's going to look like up there after they come back in 2028, I guess it'll be.
Yeah, I've actually begun negotiating. I'm buying mine from Trevor Lawrence, because he won't be around much longer.
Yeah. Well, I want to start with that, because I mean, the one good thing about Alabama losing or Florida losing or playing badly is we know the phones are going to be lit the following Monday. That's the best thing about it. And I know yours have been, and there's been a lot of talk about Kalen DeBoer lately, but I feel bad for him in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, everything that has happened should have been predicted. But what happened was so weird, though, Pat. He after a day or two, when he lost a couple of players, he did almost everything right. He had the longest honeymoon I've seen, and I don't know. I didn't think he could do any wrong. And then we saw the Georgia game where many of us were saying his team looked better coached than Saban's last couple. Blasphemous, yes. And then the next week it all came apart. And you understand because Florida used to play Vanderbilt every year. You lose to Vanderbilt and you're a blue blood like Florida or Alabama, and you can't explain it. Doesn't matter. Diego Pavia, none of that matters. First time in 40 years, meaning first time in many people's lifetime. And I've never quite seen a meltdown like that.
It was, I will say this, people watching the game at home, around the South were probably all rooting for Vandy because we all, the bottom line is we feel bad for them sometimes, but I like Alabama. I actually root for Alabama in a lot of these games because I was a big Nick Saban fan. And I like Kalen DeBoer, but I mean, it's tough, man. Sometimes you walk into things and everything's not situated right. You got to figure it out. Whether you figure it out or not, you're going to get sometimes, some places. We don't know how much longer Billy Napier has here in Gainesville.
No, and I mean, I was literally asked on a major ESPN morning show after I think it was leading into the Tennessee game, right after the Tennessee game. Do I think Kalen DeBoer is on the hot seat? That was after 7 games. But that's how the national media views it. I was with Stephen A. Smith the next day, and he said he's the wrong choice, bad fit. And I think there's certain things he doesn't do well, but you're never going to be that. I mean, you've seen a few major successions in Gainesville after Spurrier or after Urban, sure. And the next guy always has a problem.
Well, not only that, but since Urban walked out the door, Florida's 4-9 against Georgia, and again that counts 2 McElwain wins. So, when Georgia was still down, they were still trying to come up, but it'll be interesting to see how that game goes. I mean, the one thing I think Gator fans have a little hope is that Kentucky game, but we've also seen. I'm not. Look, we don't need to talk about the FSU slide because I've never seen anything like that slide. But I wanted to talk to you about Kentucky's slide because it almost seemed even more egregious because they have good players and they just haven't been able to win games.
No, and really, if you go back to last year, I mean, they were not good. They lost a bunch of games, and then they somehow beat Louisville on the final day, and that's where it got fascinating because after that game, Pat, a couple of fat cats and the AD from A&M flew to Mark Stoops' house, offered him the A&M job. He accepted it. They got on a plane, flew back to College Station, and by the time they got back there 3 hours later, there was a near revolt. So Stoops is stuck at Kentucky, and I mean that. He goes in the portal, he gets Vandergriff, has a couple of really good players, and then everything other than one day this year goes haywire. I mean, he loses to South Carolina. I still can't explain how he beat Lane Kiffin, but he has given that game back many times over now, and it just seems like a broken down program.
Paul, because there's going to be coaches openings. We know that. There may be one here. We'll see how that all goes. There may be one in Arkansas. Everyone wants to say Sam Pittman saved his job last week, and I don't think he did, but we'll see. I like Sam Pittman. I hope he does well. Mark Stoops may walk away from it. He could be at the end of his rope as well. But who is the hot coach out there? Because in a lot of ways, I think Lane Kiffin's almost played his way out of some of these jobs. Some people believe he's played his way into the Florida job, but I don't think that doesn't register as well with me.
Yeah, no, listen, we talked a couple of weeks ago when I was down there and Kiffin, the fans were chanting Kiffin, hire Kiffin behind us. He is his next 2 weekends, Pat, are going to really define who he is. At Arkansas and then Georgia at home. If he doesn't win either one of those, and we're talking about a 4-loss team that is one of the biggest collapses I've ever seen because they haven't had a team this talented since the mid '60s. And I'm not, it's not quite to the degree of FSU, but it's still pretty unbelievable if that happens. Now, the other way can go as well. So I don't know what Kiffin's going to do. I always believe Kiffin's looking. He wanted to go to Auburn a couple of years ago, and really backed out at the final minute. So never trust Lane Kiffin when it comes to anything he says about a job.
Nor would I. I don't trust many coaches. Ever since Nick Saban said, "I'm not going to Alabama," that was the beginning of that. I do want to talk to you about the NIL and this. Obviously, the 22 billion or whatever it is, it's getting ready to come down. And I've had people try to explain it to you. But one thing I've noticed, Paul, and this is going to be happening right here, is when we start talking about it, people want to turn it off. They just don't want to hear about it anymore. They're so tired of hearing about money and NIL and settlements and all this. They want to talk about football.
True. And it's a good way to put your audience to sleep is to get a guest to explain where the current status is of the House settlement. I'm bored with it myself. It is important. Administrators fret over it, probably a little too much. I would have said, you know what, screw the NCAA. Let's see how long. Let's go to court. Let's challenge this for the rest of mankind and see where it goes. But these guys are more pragmatic and have insurance companies telling them at 22 million, it's a bargain. It is for Florida and Alabama and Georgia. For everybody else, it's about the bankrupt college athletics as we know it.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you what it's going to look like in 5 years. But there's no.
You know what? College football is such a great sport on Saturday that fans don't care. And by the way, it's not like the season ends whenever the final game is. I mean, it takes a slight break, but with recruiting and speculation, it is about a 10-month sport, which is good.
Well, I always tell people college football is idiot proof, and so far, now we'll see how it may not be, in 5 years, but so far it's been idiot.
I haven't seen. 3 years ago, I thought, guys like us, friends of ours, I should say, not us, would say I'm done, but they haven't. I haven't even seen any more criticism of players now that they're making money. I thought we would get some of that, which is fine with me. But these players are really smart. Every time I talk to one of these guys, whether they're making $1 million or 50,000, they talk about what they give back, and they show a picture of them helping out, some kids, and that's the way. And we all go, that's fantastic, even though the guy's pocketing $1.5 million.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And again, it's just the way of the world right now. Before we let you go, we have to play Yes, No, Where, or Maybe with you, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteaks, street dining done the right way. Go in there and say, hey, I saw Paul Finebaum on Pat Dooley's podcast. You get free French fries with your order. Yes, No, Where, or Maybe are the questions. Number one, Alabama makes the college football playoff. Yes, No, Where, or Maybe, Paul?
Yes, I do believe they will. And which means I'm already picking them to beat LSU.
Yeah, that is a game I think we're all kind of looking forward to. It's like an elimination game, which to me is good because we're going to go deeper into the year with games that matter. And I people that didn't want this playoff, I don't agree with you.
In no way is that even going to be the best game of next weekend, because Georgia Ole Miss potentially could be a more compelling game. And I'll already give you the narrative. If Alabama loses, season's a bust. If Brian Kelly wins, he's beaten LSU at LSU. He's beaten Alabama 2 out of 3 times, which is why they hired him. If he loses, watch out. That's how big a game it will be.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, number 2 on Yes, No, Where, Maybe. Multiple people have shown up at your house dressed as you on Halloween, which is tonight.
It has not happened, but I've seen some before. We had a kid a couple of years ago in Athens who dressed up like me, and it's really kind of I'll tell the story quickly. I thought he was about 6 or 7. So they came to me and I said, "Okay, you're on live television. Tell us, why you decided to dress up like Paul Finebaum." And the kid just froze. I said, "Come on, John," and I kind of I've been thinking he was 6 or 7. I kind of popped him in the head. Come on, man. And I found out later he was 3. And our producer thought I had killed him. but he would have brain damage. Fortunately, he was fine, but it looked like child abuse live on television.
Oh, I'm sure it would go viral. You never know. Number 3 on Yes, No, Where, Maybe with Paul Finebaum. Florida, Georgia is the best neutral site game in college football.
No. And I say that because I went to the Oklahoma-Texas game recently, and there's something about that game that's more unique.
It's different. Yeah.
It doesn't have, it's more of a poor man's game.
Mm-hmm.
The state fair, the cotton candy, it's not the $5,000 a night condo and the $350 greens fee. So I think that's why I'm more of a common man. The Florida Georgia game is great, but I would rank Oklahoma Texas maybe one notch ahead of it.
It is weird when that cab drops you off. I mean, at least the one time I went, drops you off, and you have to walk through the fair to get to the game, and you see some things, man.
No, but I mean, it's more of a slice of Americana, though.
Yeah.
And maybe in this election year, that's how I'm casting my vote.
There you go. Paul, as always, it's great having you on. I appreciate your time. You're a legend, and you know that, and I appreciate you. Appreciate you being a friend. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Pat, we've been friends a long time, and the fact that we're both still employed is the most remarkable thing. Thank you very much.
It is remarkable. We'll be back with more of another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI right after this message.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great. Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, welcome back to a very busy and a lot of fun, another Duly Noted podcast. It's been a blast, and we've got all of our great stuff coming up. We love our third segment because we get all these great sponsors that do fun things. We're working on one more sponsor. Maybe I'll find out something tomorrow. Yeah. Can't say anything out in public. Okay, anyway. Let's move along to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. And the quick picks, like I said, we're going to draw it Monday. I promise we're going to give you 2 gift certificates, one from Leonardo's, one from No Paul. We're going to give that to you. So this is one last chance to get in, to qualify for the Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. Florida getting 16 against Georgia. I don't think there are a lot of people that will take Georgia. The spread's just so high. However, you never know. If that Georgia team shows up the way it has in some of its games, yeah, Florida will be right there with them. People keep going back to that 13-12 Kentucky game, and that was a different Kentucky team, obviously, in what they've become, but still. And then the other game will be the mighty game between the Seminoles of FSU at 1-7. Oh, and let me tell you what, the FSU porn joke is going over so well at all these Gator clubs. I told you guys this, Joe. I always say that my wife gets mad at me for rooting against FSU because it's bad karma and then the Gators might lose. And I'm like, no, it's like watching porn. You feel guilty, but you want to watch it again. That's a joke. It kills it everywhere I go. I came up with it all by myself. The porn part, though, doesn't always hit on all cylinders. All right, let's stop talking about porn and go to our two picks, and that'll be the other one being the North Carolina game. North Carolina is giving 2.5 at Florida State. And North Carolina plays no defense, as you know. They do have some offense. Mac Brown, there's a lot of rumors that he's going to step away after this year, that he came in and rescued the program, and he did, but he's had it, and they're all over him and all the NIL stuff and everything, and he's an old man. He may step down. So anyway, just to reiterate, Leonardo's at Millhopper, quick picks. Florida getting 16 against Georgia. North Carolina giving 2.5 at Florida State. Will pull Monday. You've got all weekend to get them. Well, you don't have all weekend. You got till 3:30, because I think North Carolina FSU's 3:30 too. So you got till 3:30 Saturday to get those picks in. Patrick Dooley 54 at gmail.com. Okay, so now it's time for our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Love our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. We do it twice a week. And we're coming up. I don't think they've been on since the first day, but they've been on since early. They've probably been on for 300 of these 400 podcasts. Again, coming up on 400, and I'm excited about it. I'm trying to think of who would be the perfect big time guest, and I ruled out Letterman. I don't think he'll come on. Maybe Taylor Swift. We should say that. We should say we're efforting to get Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce to sit in at Spurrier's. We'll just say that. We're efforting that. We'll get a good guest. I promise you that. All right, so our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Hesser and Kipke, of course, a Gainesville firm here for your needs in family law or workers' compensation. Call or text Ken and Jennifer 24/7 at 352-339-9920. Hesser and Kipke, nearly 50 years of combined legal experience and about to celebrate their 5th anniversary in January. We appreciate Ken and Jennifer so much. Let's get to number 1 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. And I kind of always save the baseball stuff for this segment because I know how much Ken loves baseball. And I'm sure he was watching the World Series last night, probably begrudgingly because his team wasn't in it. My team wasn't in it. Most teams weren't in it. There were 2 teams in it, and not for long. It did crack me up last night. Of course, for those of you who don't know, and I know all of you probably know, but the Dodgers' biggest rally in the history of a clincher, coming from 5-0. Now, I will say this: we were listening to the game, got to be 3-0, we turned it to music. I kept checking my phone, told my wife as we got home from St. Augustine, 5-0. So again, we're not watching the game. I go, I'll put it on the second TV. By the time I did that, it was 5-5. I'm like, holy cow! Now we got something to watch. So the Dodgers win, and Freddie Freeman, MVP, couldn't be happier for him. I still love the guy. Look, when he left and went to the Dodgers, I was mad at him. But I was more mad at the Braves, because the Braves screwed that up. According to all the stories, they didn't do a very good job of it. And then they got Matt Olson, who's really good. But I love Freddie Freeman. I love Freddie Freeman. He's one of my favorite players. So I'm happy he was the MVP. And, the Dodgers get that monkey off their back. That was a big knock. Oh, you spend all the money, but you never win it all. And now they have. It's, that's what you got to do. Once you win one, sometimes, you still got all these good players. Juan Soto. Juan Soto is going to be a free agent. Maybe he goes to them. Just says, hey, we're going to have 9 outfielders, and they're all going to be great. But we'll see what happens. But congratulations to the Dodgers. Got to be honest, I was rooting for them once they got into the World Series because I don't like the Yankees, number 1. And, they're my number 1 dislike. So, no offense, Yankee fans. I just don't like them. You got teams you don't like, Yankee fans. You don't, you're saying, well, I root for the Red Sox except when they play the Yankees. That's not true. All right. Let's get to number 2 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. And that is that this story broke today. And this started with Kirby Hocutt, who's the Texas Tech AD, and he brought it up on a conference call. But anyway, apparently these helmets now where you can hear the play and they can call the play in, they're not encrypted. So if you can hack into them, anybody can hear them. And considering what we just went through, the whole Connor Stallions thing, obviously everybody's going to be a little paranoid about it. So now I guess they're sending all the helmets, I think it's 68 Power 5 teams or Power 4 teams, all the helmets back and getting this little device stuck in them. Why they didn't put them in the first place, I have no idea. So that they'll be encrypted. Of course, I'm not very smart when it comes to technology, but I would assume that when it's not encrypted, not anybody, but if you're smart enough, you could hack in. I could not hack in other words. I bet you Zach probably could find out what play Florida is running. We'll have to get him to try to do that next game. So anyway, the Big 12, I think everybody got this resolved, but apparently it's been an issue for a couple of weeks. In fact, the SEC was told about it a while, and they went, let's look into that. Well, all you got to do is say, hey, I don't think they're encrypted. Hey, should be pretty simple. All right. That is number 2 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Let's move to number 3. And that was what happened last night. Bronny James, LeBron's son, scored his first basket, fall away jumper, and he did it in Cleveland. Cool. That's why he was in Cleveland. That's why, and now he's going down to the G League, and hopefully, and look, I get why people want to make a big deal of this. It is a big story. But hopefully we can let a guy who should never have been picked in the first round, you know that. I mean, the guy wasn't good at USC, and of course he had health issues, which was tragic. But you love seeing him come back and make this. You love the father-son moments. But to me, it's getting a little bit much. So now he's going to go down to the G League, and hopefully we can let it go. He got his first basket. Well done, Bronny. And I'm glad he's back playing basketball. And I think he needs several years in the G League to get to level. Because don't forget, he hardly played at USC and then went right out and ended up being a first-round pick. So he wouldn't have been a first-round pick anywhere else. Of course, we know that. All right, so that is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Okay, now it is time for our Adams Ribco to go. Gator of the weekend. We love our Adams rib. Love our big ribs out there. Oh, I was telling somebody this story the other day. I said, I'm such a baby back rib guy. And so I used to bug at him. I said, man, why don't you make baby backs? And he gets like, no, you need to try these ribs. I don't like the big ribs. I want the baby backs. Then I started eating the big ribs, and now it's all I eat. I don't even have baby backs anymore. I love the big ribs at Adams Rib Co. Let's get to our Gator of the weekend. It is the new women's tennis coach. Welcome him to Gainesville, Per Nielsen. Per, that's an interesting name, as in per capita. Well, it gets better. Per Nielsen was at Pepperdine, and he's got a real good reputation as a really good coach. I'm sure he'll do great here. The thing I love is his wife, Beth, is a St. Augustine girl. So we'll at least have something to talk about. I know that. We'll talk about St. Augustine, although she, I'm sure, well, I know, was way later than me going through St. Augustine. His son's name is Reef, which is a cool name. Now, when you live in a place like Pepperdine, and I don't know how many of you have ever been out to Malibu and to that school, but the last time I was there, we were at this park, a beautiful park overlooking the ocean, and in the back, up the hill, was Pepperdine University. And I immediately texted Andy Lopez, who had been gone from Florida. Actually, I think he was out of coaching by then. And I said, Andy, how did you ever leave this place? And he texted me right back. He goes, sometimes I ask myself the same exact question. It's beautiful out there. Anyway, he's left that place as well. So Andy Lopez had a great career at Florida. I'm sure Per Nielsen will as well. Of course, he replaced Roland Thornquist, a great guy who won a bunch of national. He's walking into a situation that is good, but it's hard because you're succeeding 2 coaches who won 7 national titles. 2 coaches, that's all it was. 2 coaches who were really good, so that's what he's got to deal with. And you can read Chris Harry wrote a great story on Per Nielsen at floridagators.com. And so you can read about it. I think it was Chris. It might have been Scott. It was one of those 2. I know that. Probably Chris. But they both were good writers. All right. That is our Adams Ribco Gator of the weekend. Let us move along to our Hugh, Cain, Allstate Mayhem moment. The Gator Nation is in good hands with local Allstate agent Hugh Cain. Stop by Alachua Marketplace Plaza in Alachua and get a free quote today. Yeah, this is it. And, usually I would be rooting against these guys, but I had to root for them in this game. And hey, nice to end it with a strikeout, too. And that was a pretty good pitch. I don't know that I could have hit it, but it is mayhem when you have a dog pile. There's no doubt about it. I think it's one of the most mayhem moments there are because I'm always afraid when I'm watching it, somebody's going to get hurt. Now, I will say this, the major league players tend to just jump around. It's not like the college dog piles. I remember Derek Nicholson telling me once he was under the dog pile in '98 when they got to the College World Series and won it on a walk-off, and he hit the ball, and he said, I thought I was going to die. I really did. I couldn't breathe. So congrats to the Dodgers, and that is our Hugh Cain Allstate mayhem moment. Always when people lose their minds, we always like to point it out. All right. Let us get to our Florida Surf Club upset alert. We always enjoy our Florida Surf Club guys. We've shown you some of their highlights that you can go to the Florida Surf Club website and donate if you want to help them out. I mean, this is a club sport, but they're a club sport that sponsors another duly noted podcast. You know who doesn't? The football team. Kind of they do in a way. Anyway, so here's our upset alert. And the rule I made for this has got to be at least a touchdown underdog. And I'm giving it to South Carolina. South Carolina is a 7-point underdog at home where they're playing Sandman and against Ole Miss. And Ole Miss, I've had a lot of people. Now, again, they're probably looking at it based on games that have happened that really don't have anything to do with it. And that's like, you can sit here and go, yeah, Kentucky only lost to Georgia 13-12. That has nothing to do with this game. Florida, Kentucky, nothing to do with it. Our Florida, Georgia game. But I will say this: there are a lot of people really think South Carolina is going to get them, and and 7-point underdogs, but they think they're going to get them. And they've had a really good defense. I can see that happen. So that is our Florida Surf Club upset alert. It is time for us to get to this, that, and the other. This, that, and the other is brought to you, of course, by Ironwood Golf Course, which I'll be playing tomorrow for the tournament out there, the Phoenix Fox Foundation tournament, Sarah's birthday tournament. We used to call it, and we still call it. Sarah runs the tournament and does a great job, and George Fox, great job out there. I've given them a lot of good stuff for it, like I did with the 94. And the reason I'm not being charitable. I'm allocating things people have donated that I think would help people that I really want to help. And I do that all the time. That's just the way I am. I like doing it. It's like I'm a little, moving things around and everything. Okay, I'll allow you to have this. No, I'm kidding. Of course I'm kidding. All right. So let's get to this, that, and the other. Brought to you by Ironwood, as I mentioned. Brought to you by Dar Shakow Insurance. John Dar Jr. put a great list out of the 10 best golf courses, in his opinion, and the state of Florida, and how many of you played. And the answer, I'm pretty sure, was 2. Sawgrass was 1, but I played Sawgrass 25 times. Does that count as 25? I played there a lot, obviously, especially growing up in Jacksonville. So Dar Shakow Insurance and by Ballyhoo Grill, where a huge event is going to be happening coming up. I can't say anything about it, but I'll let you know about it later down the road, okay? All right, Ballyhoo's best. All right. Let us get to this, that, and the other. This is that November has always been my favorite month since I was a kid. When I was a young boy, I remember getting when I was 10, my birthday present was a TomTom. Dun, 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 dun. Now, instead of taking that and becoming an FSU fan, I didn't play with it after the first day. Maybe I already knew, okay? But anyway, November's always a fun month because it's the best part of college football season. I'm sorry. The playoffs are great, and the playoffs this year may change by a minute. December may be the best month. I'm not sure about that yet, but it hadn't been the best month. All those bowl games I like watching them. I'm in the minority there, but it's not like what we're going to see in November. And don't forget, November starts Friday. November is going to be awesome, but that's my whole life's been like that. November has been awesome. My birthday all the great college football games, and you never know. Usually something else will pop up. Basketball started, NBA. I'm sorry, NBA, but college basketball starts as well. You get fired up about that. So it was always the best month. Then, you start to look at these birthdays and it changes. And I was thinking about this. This is that. I was thinking about this. I never thought about dying or growing old and being decrepit until you get about 55, I think is when. And all you that are 55, I'm not trying to depress anybody. But for me, that's about when I started thinking about those things. Occasionally. Now you think about it a little bit more. And that is the other. The other is I feel really old. For the first time in my life, I feel really old. And people keep saying, 70? You're not going to turn 70. You don't look 70. And I'm like, well, that's a nice compliment. I think you look 69. Thank you very much. No, but I do feel old because a lot of things are going on. I'm getting ready to have some surgery and on my back, having all kinds of problems. At the same time, I don't feel old. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm looking forward to going to play golf tomorrow. I'm looking forward to doing a lot of things going forward. And I'm going to keep this going as long as I can. And I don't feel that old. So I'm getting my birthday speech out early because on my birthday, I don't want to talk about my birthday because then I turned 70. 70! What happened? All right. That's enough retrospective on Pat Dooley's life. I'm sure you guys are going, I can get off the treadmill now. It's not quite an hour, but that's okay. I've had enough of this. All right, but let's just get you to our Swamp games of the weekend, brought to you by the Swamp Restaurant, where Jeff and I are going to be today, and then we'll be there, of course, on both Thursdays for the 2 home games coming up. We can't wait to get out there. Always love having a good time there, and there are a lot of things you can watch. Okay, yeah, so let's get to the games, and I'm pretty sure Florida's playing Ole Miss in volleyball on Sunday. I think that's going to be, but it's only on the Plus. So if you want to watch that game, they've got a little win streak going, so it's kind of good to see. And maybe it's partly because the competition's is not been as good, but it's been teams that have had basically the same record. So hopefully they're figuring things out there in volleyball. But I did want to bring you the state game of the week. And again, we always don't include the Florida-Georgia game. It's 3:30 on ABC. But the state game of the week will be Duke at Miami. I'm looking forward to that game. Now, Duke, as we know, plays great defense, has no offense. Miami plays great offense, tends to play down to its opponent's, level, and we'll see how that goes. They didn't play down to FSU's level. That's true. I think Duke's got a chance in that game. I think Miami win. Anyway, that game's at noon on ABC, so that'll be a great lead into Florida, Georgia. The SEC game of the week, other than Florida, Georgia, is the A&M at South Carolina game, which I talked about for the upset alert. That game is at 7:30 on ABC. And then the SEC game the national game of the week is the Ohio State at Penn State. I think it's 3 versus 4, right? Noon on Fox. So that is exciting. At first, when I was looking at the schedule, I didn't think it was that great. But I'm going to get to that in a minute. I did want to mention no more soccer. Soccer's all done. They finished their last 9 matches, 1-7-1, and they scored 1 goal in their last 6 matches. Samantha Bowen's come in here and done a great job to get Florida, where they are competitive. Now she's got to find some people that can score some goals. That goes without saying. I'm not telling her anything she doesn't know. Scored 1 goal in their last 6 matches. But anyway, they're done with their season. The national game, that'll be fun. Ohio State, Penn State. But yeah, here's the thing. All I want is 3 games at all for the 3 slots. The noon slot, the 3:30 slot, the 7:30 slot. If I get 3 games that I get excited about, that I want to watch, I'm in heaven. And I have 3, and I'm excited. So I'm going to have a great Saturday. I hope you do too. We'll be back with another show on Monday. We always do one on Mondays with Coach Spurrier. Look forward to that. Hopefully we'll have something good to talk about. One way or another, I'm sure we will. That's going to do it. Zach, who has done a masterful job today dealing with my idiocy. He's got to deal with it every Monday, every Thursday. We'll be back with the show Monday. Till then, I am Pat Dooley, and I am deep. I am way back, and I am out of here.